supposed to use this one. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming, everybody. I'm Anna Franklin, General Director of Film New Europe, and standing next to me is Anna Shevchenko, Project Manager of Film New Europe based in Warsaw.
Welcome, everybody. We are very happy to see you here, live and online.
Yes, I want to welcome all of our panelists. Thank you for coming, and all those in the audience, as well as those watching online. And I especially want to thank the Visegrad Fund, which made it possible for all of us to be here, and also Creative Europe of the European Union, our sponsors. I'll just take literally 1 minute and tell you that Film New Europe is a network of 18 countries with 18 different languages, many of them quite small countries, like Slovakia. But we network together, and this is your gateway to an audiovisual market of over 100 million people. And the focus of this series of events, there'll be 4 panels, of which this is the first, this is our kickoff, will be about film in the Visegrad region, both during the pandemic and what's happening now that we're opening up again. It's been a tough year of lockdowns and cinema closures, but we've learned a lot across the region, and the region is springing back to life, which we're going to find out about today. So at FNE, we offer you the tools. If you want to change the slide. Yes, these are the members of our association, the 18 countries, their film funds, and the members of our association that runs Film New Europe, you'll see there. And if you could go to the next slide. So, we offer you the tools online for free, thanks to our sponsors, that give you the business intelligence and all you need to get moving again. It's also about promoting cross-border cultural cooperation, sharing models for increasing audiences that can cross borders, which we hope we'll find some today, and direct contact with the leaders of successful models for businesses. One more very important sponsor I want to thank today, which is the Slovak Film Institute, which has been our partner on this event, and we are especially grateful to you. Thank you very much. So join us, the network of Europe's most successful film professionals. You can subscribe to FNE Daily Newswire at www.filmneweurope.com. It's all free, thanks to our wonderful sponsors. And now, over to Mate and our panelists.
Thank you, Anna. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matej Sotnik and I'm the moderator of this of today's event. My main field is distribution, but it's my pleasure to moderate panel about what COVID brings to the film production in Europe or in the European conditions, because the name of the event is Film New Europe Visegrad 2021 Year of Recovery for Film and Television Industry. The 2021 Year of Recovery for Film in Visegrad Countries project brings together filmmakers and cultural professionals across the V4 to cooperate in the recovery of the film industry, which has been badly damaged by the COVID pandemic, and to reconnect with cinema audiences across the region and across borders. It's my special pleasure to introduce you our keynote panelists today. Katarina Krnáčová from Slovakia is a producer, founder of and director of Silver Art Production. Her famous film Little Harbor won Crystal Bear at Berlinale 2017. So Katarina, hello.
Hello, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
Our next guest is Laszlo Kantor from Hungary. He's a producer and the CEO of Új Budapest Film Studio. He's one of the most renowned Hungarian producers. He produced over 30 features and 93 documentaries, and he specifically focused also on co-productions.
Yes, welcome everybody. Thank you for inviting me.
Our next guest is Zuzana Bieliková from Slovakia. She's a film commissioner and director of the Slovak Film Commission. Hello.
Hello, thank you.
And our last guest is Jaroslav Grzimala from Poland. He's an executive producer of short and student films from Warsaw Film School and used to produce many commercials in Poland. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so we've been in a madness called COVID-19 for almost a year and a half. If you would go back in time to very beginnings of the pandemic and how it complicated or even stopped your running projects, what would first come to your mind? Katarina.
Thank you for having me as the first speaker here. My first memory is definitely the first production, which we started in March 2020, which probably will be a very important month written in history, when everything, all this madness started. We started to shoot a Czech and Slovak co-production film in Czech Republic in March. And then the pandemic came, so we were really struggling and thinking what to do. We tried to keep up the actors and all the crew on the set and shoot as long as possible because we didn't know what will happen. The borders were slowly closing one after each other, and we just knew that once we will release the crew, probably we will never, or for a very long time, we won't be able to get the crew and the actors over the border again. So we shot approximately half of the film, then we had to stop. And then we were just constantly on the phone and on the internet trying to decide what to do next. No one knew, it was really the first weeks of the pandemic. No one knew if this will be there or with us for a month, for a half year. I think the most pessimistic visions were that it will last until September. I don't know what would have happened if someone would told us that it would be 1 year and a half and we would be even in worse condition. So our director, he just really wanted to finish the film as soon as possible. So we were really trying to get ready. And once the borders opened a bit, it was in the beginning of May, we immediately continued shooting and we finished the film by the end of the May. So that was a great luck because we were thinking if to stop or continue in autumn, that it will be much better. And as we know now, it was not better, it was much worse. So I think it was a very wise decision. And now we are in post-production, we are finishing the film and we are trying to find the best way to put it out to the world, which is also very challenging nowadays. And then we had another co-production film on our slate. We were planning to shoot in summer, children co-production film. It was a 4-side co-production, Serbian, Croatian, Bulgarian, and Slovak co-production. And we were just ready. The pre-production was done even a year before, so we were totally ready to shoot. So we took the risk, and we shot the film in August and in September. So we were also kind of lucky to make it before the second wave really hit the world. And it was very different because with the first film with the Czech and Slovak co-production in May, no one knew any rules. We were trying to call all the offices to try to get some official statements, but it was just a big chaos. While as the children film in September, we already got accustomed to the situation. We had a huge manual written for every department, all the security and COVID rules. So it was a very, I would say, systematic approach to that, and we managed to do that. It's also in post-production, finishing the visual effects here in Slovakia right now. So yes, and I even actually took the risk, and I even went with another film of mine into distribution last summer. So that was I would call it an experiment, distribution experiment. But we were ready with the film as well, and we didn't want to wait. It was a summer film for children, so we didn't want to wait 1 more year. We didn't know what would happen. So we went to cinema, so that was also a very challenging experience, I would say. Yes.
Thank you, and congratulations to that. And
Thank you.
and we are everybody in the film industry are in the sort of laboratory for 15 months. Laszlo, what first come to your mind when pandemic started?
In a way, I was lucky because I just arrived back from Porto Film Festival, from Portugal to Budapest, and I was very glad because we got the best director prize, best script prize with our movie. And the next day I arrived, it started the pandemic, everything was closed. So in this way it was lucky. And I just finished the Romanian-Hungarian co-production, which we have been already in post-production. So luckily we could work on that because we have been in the editing room. The bad thing it was that we couldn't really finish the picture, but the sound we couldn't finish because the director was from Sydney, a Romanian-Hungarian director, and because of the pandemic, they had to go back because Australia closed also. So then actually we finished the post-production through phones and internet, but luckily now in October we will release the film. Oh, and also the good thing it was in this pandemic that the Hungarian Film Institute didn't close the application, so all the time it was open. So we could work on new projects and new plans. We could apply even when shooting was forbidden, but at least we could think about the new projects and work on the new projects and apply that when the opening will start. We should have something, so that was a good thing.
Thank you. Zuzana, what could you tell us from the position of film commissioner in Slovakia?
And so many of the things were already said by Katarina, but in the beginning of the pandemic it was really chaotic and nobody knew what we can do or what we cannot do and how to behave. So it was a big shock. Many of the producers stopped filming because of the health situation, because they wanted to prevent any new cases, obviously. But in Slovakia, filming was never banned because it was considered as a business activity. So the problem was wearing the obligatory wear of face masks, even for the actors. That was impossible. So then we joined forces with film industry professionals, with the institutions and with the governmental institutions, and we managed to get the exemption. So it was a very short period when it wasn't really possible to film. And after 2 months, 1.5 months, 2 months, the filming carried on, but obviously in very restricted measures, as Katarina already explained. But it was a really a big challenge to get the right information to the producers regarding the filming, regarding the regulations, the COVID protocols, etc., and as well regarding the traveling, because in our region, many of the films are co-produced with foreign countries, so it was important for us to keep up to date with all the regulations on the borders, as well. Regarding the foreign filming in Slovakia, there were many projects that got cancelled, so it was not an easy situation, but I think we managed the best that we could.
Sorry, I will give you a microphone because there is some problem with you can leave it on.
So I think that this was it.
Thank you, Zuzana. Jaroslav?
Well, for the, let's say, last 3 years, I was... Is it working now? Okay. So for the last 3 years, I was supervising students' productions at the Warsaw Film School. And in 2019, there were more than 40 short films shot. So when the 2020 came, suddenly this university was closed. It was a very difficult time when the students realized that they, or maybe some of them not, but they were really shocked that they have to stay at home and stop make the preparations for the annual movies. So it was really shocking for everyone. especially for foreign students. There are quite many of them at the Warsaw Film School. The decision either to go back to the native countries or to stay in Poland, that was really difficult for them because there were no lectures and the time which is spent without any results. However, you know, it's self-evident that each situation has good and bad sides. So students used to keep the contact with the teachers, mostly online. So in fact, they could develop their projects. They hoped for the autumn time. So it was like working on this not shooting part, but the preparation time. I mean, working on the scripts mostly to get the finest result and preparing for the shooting, looking for the locations in internet or talking to the actors to take a part in the films. So from one side, it was a shock, and you couldn't shoot, you couldn't even attend to the lectures, to the university. From the other side, via internet, you could work on your own projects. The situation in the movie industry was more or less the same. I think everything was closed suddenly, like everywhere. However, the only difficult times was, I think, 3 months, like February, March, and April, or maybe May. But since June, slowly this market has been opened. So for this 3-4 months, there was quite a difficult time for the technical crews and for actors because they lost their jobs, they were changing jobs. But from June, the business started to open, especially the co-productions moved back because the rules in Poland were not so strict. There was no such in the beginning of epidemic time, there was not so much sick people in Poland. The situation changed at the end of the year, but in the first wave, we can say, it was quite okay. So we have made many rules how to behave on the set. They were quite strict. Testing was obligatory almost before getting into the set. So special devices on the set, like cleaning and making the space clear. So there were situations that, for example, when big movies had to stop because the actor was sick. So it was like a week or 2 weeks of break. Meantime, there was some changing of flexibility, changing the schedule, and the crew was trying to work. However, at least 1 or 2 breaks and the big movies, but the movies were made since June. So, you know, it didn't make the cost higher because every member of the crew was signing the paper that if in case of the break because of COVID, he will not claim for additional money for the waiting time. So this kind of rules, of course, sometimes there was some other obligation and you lost someone from the crew. More difficult if it would be the actor, but so you have to wait. But you could, sometimes the timing was much longer, so you finished the film, for example, a month later. Because of the situation on the set, because of the COVID. With commercial productions, the situation was quite similar. The 3-4 months total totally empty market. However, since June, the same situation the situation of production came back, let's say, to 70% of a normal situation. This, let's say, 3-4 months made the clients kept their budgets and they have to spend it somehow. So they have started to work. Of course, the work was totally different. For example, because of pre-production meetings were held online, you haven't to produce tons of paper for all the booklets which you present when you are by the table face to face. So it was quite good. Also, streaming was opened up widely. For example, there were productions which were directed from New York via online. There were several cameras set on the set, and the director had a view not only of what is going on between actors on the stage, but on the whole stage. He could comment the behavior of the technicians because they were in camera. It required very, very well prepared shooting plan. It was so precisely described. It helped a lot of people just to improve the way of preparations for the shooting. Not only in this case of shooting with the director outside the soundstage, but it stayed for now for the preparations for just a normal shooting. But it was interesting that the streaming, especially for the commercials, because they had much bigger budgets, was the solution. So shocking was the 3-4 months at the beginning of the year. Since June, the situation started to go back to the let's say normal. In fact, about 70% of the standards of normal productions.
I would like to add to this regarding co-production that we prepared a Polish-Hungarian co-production for which we got the money under the COVID, and we plan to start to shoot last October. Then we have to postpone it. Then we postponed it for April, and then again we lost some money because the town of Wrocław, for example, it was in the as co-producer, but because of the COVID, the town has lost money because of the COVID, and then they couldn't. Then we have to find money from others. We got from Hungary, and doesn't matter. So a lot of problems occurred, and finally we had to postpone it for this October. And one of the reasons why we couldn't start to shoot it was that the film is not based in Warsaw, but in Poznan and other cities. So it was allowed to shoot, but the hotels have been closed. So the crew couldn't have where to stay. So they had a lot of reasons that, okay, it was open with mask and with every regulations, but you couldn't move the whole crew from Warsaw to Poznan and back every day. So this is regarding the problems, and especially about the you said co-productions. Another thing is regarding the budget, for example, because with all these regulations, also in Hungary it was opened quite soon, and also Hungarian production started to shoot, and with strict regulations, and also the foreign productions came back, American, German, English, Swedish, different big productions which have been and are shooting in Hungary. But for example, it's very important thing that because of all these restrictions, the health restrictions, the budget raised. So now a budget of the film, it's at least around 10% higher because of these regulations, which is a lot. And you have to do that test every morning. Even there are crews who are shooting like that the whole crew, even for example, is the foreign production, even the Hungarian crew has to move in a hotel, and everybody is staying there. They can't go in home to their families during the shooting, and they can just go to the set and back. So there are a lot of these kind of regulations, but for example, in Hungary, for Hungarian productions, what was a good thing that the Film Institute, for example, decided that because the budget raised with 10%, you could apply for additional support for these COVID restrictions. So this helped the productions, because it's also another problem that because of all these tests and things, of course, the shooting time became longer. On that, of course, you had to manage somehow to solve this situation.
Thank you. This is somehow connected with my next question, actually. But I forget to tell that a little bit about the scenario of the event. So after approximately 60 minutes, there will be space for your questions. So we would all really appreciate your questions and your inputs to the discussion. And so my next question is, the key factor for sure was how quick were the key institutions, such as national film funds, or even Ministry of Culture, right, in each country. Did you get the help you needed from funding bodies, and was it fast enough? Who would be like to be first?
That's a tricky question, because there is never enough support and money for our projects. That's the basic rule. Well, our Slovak Audiovisual Fund, they reacted. I think they started in autumn, when it really seemed like it will last much longer than we expected from in the beginning. They raised budget for development of the projects, which I think was very smart. They opened the call, so it was like constant open call. It's still lasting until now. Because of course most of the filmmakers they postponed their productions, so they could concentrate on the development of new projects, which probably they wouldn't have time to do otherwise. So this was good, I think, really, because a lot of people applied with their new ideas, and also they supported cinemas, which is something which we cannot forget, because it's not directly connected to the production, but it's something which we absolutely need for our films to actually get it out to the people. So they supported cinemas with raised budget as well. They could apply for support, and for at least, I think it was just really a small portion of the money which they lost because they had to be closed, but at least they got something back. So we will now see how it actually affected all the cinemas, and how many cinemas will actually be able to reopen again.
In Hungary, since more than 10 years, we have a continuous support, so we can apply whenever we are ready with a project. So there are no deadlines at all. When you are ready with a project, you can apply. So this is a good thing, that then not twice a year or once a year are going in 200 projects. There is a continuity, and this remained. Also, the Film Institute had applications for filmmakers who are in a bad situation, like back workers or people with family who didn't have work. You can apply for additional support for living, so not just for filmmaking. And as I told, yes, of course, in Hungary it was, we already have, but now it was a special focus to pre-production, because this was longer and you have to wait when you can go in and when you can start. So yes, the institute was quite flexible and trying to keep up with the situation. Of course, it's a different thing with the healthcare and all the restrictions that you had to follow up, and you prepared with something and you have to cancel. But I think actually this situation has learned us, fortunately or unfortunately, to try to think in another way about, I think, not only in cinema but in the whole fields of working, and I think this will after so long period, I hope that people won't forget what they could learn from this bad thing, which maybe will keep us to be a little bit better persons.
Thank you. Pandemic like teach us to think in sort of radical imagination. Yeah, and we are hoping that pandemic established in Slovakia, that pandemic established this particular calls to be open in the future also constantly. And Zuzana.
Yeah, so the important thing is that the Audiovisual Fund didn't stop the support, not in one scheme, even in the cash rebate, it carried on and was accepting applications throughout the whole time. And also one other important thing is that it relaxed the deadlines for the projects that were to be released, obviously, that the deadlines were postponed as well. And in regards to the support for the individuals, individual filmmakers and workers, that part was supported by Ministry of Culture, but the support came pretty late, I think after a year of pandemic only. And also the amount, I didn't apply, so I don't know, but maybe Katarina can tell me, but it was in the amount of what, 4,000 to 6,000 euros?
Yeah, it was also the amount, but the other problem was that it was super, super difficult, and I'm actually pretty well, I think, pretty well skilled in submitting all kinds of applications, but that's me being a producer and, living out of applications for, 50 applications per year. But those people who haven't submitted any application before, like, sound masters or, DOPs or workers on the set, I mean, it must have been almost impossible for them to actually go through all the bureaucratic process. So it was super complicated. Also, the rules, who is eligible for that, was very, very restricted. And actually, me personal, I didn't get any support because I just wasn't eligible for neither of the supports. I think they did 2 or 3 calls, but I mean, I was not able. So I hope that those people who lost their jobs and who were really, really, really struggling, that they managed to get it. But it was really, as you said, right, it came very late, and it was very little amount, and also the money came very late, even after submitting the applications. So this was not very successful, I would say.
Yeah. So, Jaroslav, did you get the help you needed from funding bodies?
Well, generally, as far as I know, but I can be mistaken, there was no any specific support from, let's say, authorities of the film industry. There was a general support from the government and the Ministry of Culture, which applied also to the film business. I mean, to the companies which were involved in the film business. When you had the company, for example, supporting film production as a costume designer or focus puller or any technicians, you could get on the regular basis support. But there were a group of people who couldn't get this support, like who had no companies registered, who were working on as an artist, like actors, sometimes musicians, and so on. So I know that the Polish Society of Filmmakers created a special fund to support these people. So I think that's all. I mean, it's like in Poland, was like in Czech or in Slovakia. All the Polish Institute was not closed. It was working all the time and just making his sessions regarding the supporting the productions. So it was just on hold everything, and people had to adapt to these circumstances.
Thank you. Something is with signal, right? Or yeah, okay. What was very important in Slovakia, for example, was also initiatives of professional organizations and non-public bodies, such as Association of Independent Producers in Slovakia. Did you notice, maybe in other countries, some specific needs or tendencies for unusual levels of cooperations across the sector?
I have to say not really. Uh, Not really. So people try to help each other, but everybody also in Hungary it was an initiative that private sector so they put together money to help who are in really bad conditions. A lot of people had left the field because they get bankrupt or they couldn't continue. But of course we knew about each other, and of course everybody tried to help in a way, but everybody was in so bad condition that everybody was happy if he can survive somehow. So I think it was really almost impossible, because if you haven't been the state or you haven't been a big multi company or something, then most of the people have been in the same bad situation. So you can't even say that this was working because of people didn't want to help each other. It was because they couldn't help each other.
Well, if I understood well your question, I think the pandemic situation didn't make any special and created any special needs for cooperation. I think that was the cooperation is just as it used to be. If you have a good script which allows you the cooperation, and you also want to raise some money internationally, that's the reason. I mean, the pandemic situation haven't created any specific factor to this kind of the cooperation. I think so. I'm not sure.
And I think the only that's hard thing it was that for example in co-productions or corporations, the money could travel, but we couldn't travel, the crew couldn't travel. So that was, and this is what wasn't or it isn't the problem of the film funds or anything. It's a matter of the state that they can decide how you can pass the border. Because, for example, turning back to this, my last co-production or next co-production with Poland, for example, in this co-production, I will bring the complete camera and lighting equipment. So with people, so how if we want, and we are shooting in Poland, how I'm carrying through the border everything. So there is a lot of logistics which you have to try to solve. And okay, now at the moment we hope it's easier and it's working. But for more than a year, you never knew that next day what will happen, and maybe your equipment will remain there and you can't bring it back. So it's bringing a lot of much more logistic problems than usually were.
Zuzana or Katarina, do you want something to add? Okay. Because I asked the previous question, because my next question is, how can we help each other in Visegrad countries during the recovery time?
In Hungary, I have to say that, we have, in the last 2 years, our Film Institute is saying that they want to, and this was in press a lot of times released, that they want to focus on co-production between Visegrad countries. And as I know, as also I get for this Polish co-production, but as I know, there is Slovak co-production also, which got money from Hungary. So they started, they are saying, and there are a couple of examples that they are really wanting to have the Visegrad co-productions. Let's have projects, let's attack them, and let's see what will happen.
Yeah, well, what can I say? I mean, this would be best if the initiative like this, focus of Hungarian Fund for Visegrad co-productions, would be in all Visegrad countries, definitely, because I really feel that we I mean, for Slovakia, we mostly co-produce with Czech Republic, which is very natural because we have, we are very close to them in terms of language, history, and state, and all these things. But I still think that we have the potential to co-produce much more with Hungary and much more with Poland. There are a few co-productions, but I don't think that there is enough of those co-productions. And if the funding if the funds in all 4 countries would really agree upon this kind of initiative, that would be great, because I really think that especially now in the pandemic, because I still think that we are still in the pandemic times, the traveling will be complicated, still more and more complicated, and we are neighbors, we are neighboring countries, so it's much more easy to shoot in Poland or in Hungary than to shoot in Spain. We have also in terms of language with Poland, with Hungary it's a bit more complicated. But we have a lot of Hungarian, also like Slovak Hungarian people living in Slovakia, so the history is common. I think also in terms of content of the film, there is a huge potential, which I don't think that it was fulfilled until now.
Thank you. Susanna?
As the representative of the fund, I can tell that we are working on it. Our funds are working on it, but it's still in the very beginning. So maybe on the next panels I can tell you more. But in the recent years, 2 years, I also registered much more interest in filmmakers from either Hungary or Poland to come to film in Slovakia, their projects. So this is also one part of it. Obviously, as Katarina said, from Czech Republic, it was continuous interest in filming in Slovakia, especially the mountains and some other locations. But let's see, I think that this can be the beginning of
A beautiful friend.
friendship, exactly.
Well, I think maybe this is something for Film New Europe, just to make a little lobbying in film institutes in our countries to let's say, make me a special fund, or maybe to promote this kind of the cooperations separately from the regular work they do. So maybe that's why you should think about it, please.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. We 4 country have beautiful nature locations. Laszlo mentioned that many people left the industry in Hungary, right, during the pandemic. So, but productions, we can see the production boom for now. What about productions in your countries? Do you perceive nowadays very discussed production boom in your countries?
In Hungary, there is a big production boom now. Yes, so all the because we have this 30% tax fund, and all the big productions came back and they are coming back. So and now even today there are a lot of huge stars filming in Hungary. So yes, they started, and there are big studios where for the next 3 years you can't book time because they are completely full. And also TV series, Netflix, but not only American movies. They are coming. I know they are shooting German TV series. Scandinavians are shooting. So there are a lot of productions. So really, it's coming. I think it's coming back, and for example, now a lot of just on Saturday we finished. We had our national film festival in a small town. Now it moved. So it moved from Budapest to Veszprém, which next year will be cultural capital of Europe, and it was really very good to be again together, filmmakers. We could discuss a lot of films which couldn't be presented. Now they have been presented, so it was a very good feeling that again we can gather and we can discuss about film and see other films which haven't been presented in the last 2 years. And as I see, also now there are more and more productions starting to shoot. And also it's a very interesting thing that till now we had two funds. You could apply to the Hungarian Film Fund, which is now Hungarian Film Institute. That was mainly for feature films and for feature-length documentaries, some. And it was a separate TV fund. Now they put it together, and now you can apply also for TV films, shorts, documentaries. You can apply to the National Film Institute. Now this thing is together, and it's also continuous. So there are no deadlines, which is also a good thing. Which is helping the industry through, and thanks God, and I hope it will remain like that. That we have, comparing with other countries, we have quite a big amount of money which is for movies, because we have 80% of one of the lotteries which is going there. So that means more or less, just for features, it's around 20 million euros, which is for the small countries not so bad. And good thing is also that, and this is fixed in the law, so that's why I say that hopefully this won't change. And the other thing is that also, which is a good thing, that for the 30%, now you don't have to bring a company but there are a lot of companies now who are participating in this tax refund system. But as now it's to this tax refund is open for theaters and now for sports especially, and for football and these things. So a lot of money is going obviously there. But the good thing is that big state companies. So the film fund in the time of Andy Weiner, he made a separate fund just for the tax refund, and the Film Institute is looking for companies which are mostly big state-owned companies, like I don't know, the Pax Energetic or even the tax authority in Hungary. They are putting money from the tax rebate, and then you don't have to find yourself somebody, but you can apply to the Film Institute that you are starting with a film, and you need from that separate fund the money, and then there is a list, and in the order of the application, how the money is entering, you are automatically getting that money. So it's easier for us to get it, and it's very important, because usually if you are getting this tax money, you have to pay something, a certain percentage back, and the company usually takes a bigger amount, and that you are going to the Film Institute for this 30% tax refund, you just have to pay, I think, 2.5%, which is a very good rate. I don't know how much it was heard of what I said, but I hope yes, the people are saying that yes.
What about production boom in Slovakia?
Yeah. So we had the same situation with the film professionals, that many of the film professionals went to get more solid jobs, more stable jobs. So some of them have left us. But at the moment, it's summer. It's the combination of summer, because the filmmakers usually like to film during the summer, because it's longer day and more
longer
work.
days, and actors are free from their theaters,
Yeah.
and children can act in the film. So there are many reasons. Yes.
So that's one of the reasons, but also there are more projects now that are being filmed. including TVs, foreign films, domestic, local films are being filmed at the moment. So obviously now there is even difficult to get some professionals on the set. But maybe you can add something to that.
I'm not filming this summer, so I don't have any fresh experience. But from my experiences, even before pandemic, it was getting very hard to get professionals during the summer, because there was every year there was a boom in shootings in summer. And you know, in Slovakia, as the audiovisual industry was growing in the last, I would say, 10 to 13 years, there were still more and more films every year being filmed. So it was very hard to get good people and skilled people on the set. So now with the pandemic, I think it's getting even worse to get good people. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure that there are also new people coming to the industry, and after the a year being locked down at homes, that I hope that they are all eager to work, and that they are much more energetic and willing to work more than they would maybe before, because they the situation is insecure, and we don't know what will happen in autumn, how the new wave will hit us. We don't know how the situation will evolve, and I think therefore everyone tries to use the situation, now with somehow open window to work as much as possible. And I think this is the worst for the whole industry, this insecurity. That's what I feel the most. That it can feel that, okay, we had 1 year of holidays, but it was not like that at all, because we didn't know what will happen. We were trying to plan, but then the plans has changed, and again, and then you are even afraid to plan something, because you know that it might change, and that insecurity is, I think, it can be very devastating for also some projects. So this is something which we have to somehow deal with also in our minds and in the creative approach, and to try to be, I don't like the word flexible, but yes, to be really flexible and creative at the same time, and to react immediately.
Rethink the plans and rethink the plans.
And rethink and again and again. Yes, exactly. And to just count on more versions, or plan A, plan B, plan C, and to really have this all on the table.
Yeah, this is also common for sure with the film festivals, which is also for film distributors, but this is the topic of another panel. Jaroslav, what about production boom in Poland?
Okay, I think that the situation is more or less similar. There are two factors. The one is that some people lost their jobs. Some just quit to find, as you said, a solid work. So this is one factor. The other one is that amount of the productions is all the time growing up. It's not only the feature productions, but also the TV is spreading out with the TV productions. They have to produce the content. So also the platforms, internet platforms, also the private Polish TVs are creating the new ones, and they have to fill it with TV series and features, so they're producing. So in fact, there are problem with the crews in Poland. Recently, I have heard rumors, which was quite awkward, that service for Americans planned for September is going to be cancelled or postponed, because they cannot complete the crew, which is really awkward, because it's quite profitable part of the business. So this is the situation. Well, let's hope it will solve somehow. I don't know how, but it's just implementing new people to the market and trying to train them, teach them.
Yeah, during the summer.
During the summer. Yeah, this is the situation. But happily, the market is back, and the productions are growing. Amount of productions.
But definitely sure that the market will change. So so not only only the making of the movies, but also the distribution, because also we don't know in this situation that cinemas, when are open, when the people, a lot of people, they are okay. Some of them, they are coming back to cinemas, but also a lot of cinemas closed. So it's a very important issue to speak not only about the making of the movies, but about the distribution of the movies, because for sure the market is changing, and it's going much more towards the online and the streaming, and what I'm not happy about it, but that's a fact. So you have to see it. Hopefully that I have to say, once I asked Krzysztof Kieślowski that till how long cinema will live, and he told me that till love is existing, and I asked him that how do you mean this, and he said it's very simple. So if you are in love with somebody, then if you want to be really alone with her, if you are going to her home, then you are not alone, you are there parents. If you are going to a pub, that there are people who are watching, and if you want to be closer to her, so the only place is where you can be alone with your love is the cinema, because everybody is watching the screen. So we hope that cinema will remain till love remains, but we have to think about the other situation too.
Thank you. Hopefully art house cinema will won this situation, but probably not. Maybe I have a little more particular question. Creative Europe and the media program has changed the grants condition, for example, for the development funding. In the documentary environment, for example, this elected a response. Dozens of key institutions have signed up to the call for the return of the original conditions, as the new ones disqualify smaller production companies. Did this change somehow affect you, and how do you reflect on it?
Well, it's a new situation. I mean, the call was open, I think, 3 weeks ago, and they're still adding more and more documents and more details to it. So we are just now exploring basically the rules, but definitely the eligibility rules are very strict. And especially now in terms of pandemic, when the distribution is so hard to get even in domestic, in the local home country, and it's getting almost impossible to get the film in foreign distribution in foreign country, or it's getting very hard. In the last year and a half, we will see how it actually will evolve later on. But I also think that it will change, as you said, that probably the distribution channels will change. The channels will more go into online world, and the cinemas, I think they will exist, but they will. I don't think that the people will go back into the cinemas in the same amount and with the same energy as they were before. I think there will be audience which will just stay online because they just got used to it and found it just very comfortable for them. So for the media, we are just now exploring it, and I think that it can be, yes, it can be very, very cruel for smaller companies. I think one of the reasons was that really every year, as the amount of film being produced was raising, also the amount of applications was raising, and I could have seen it on the time of evaluation of the project. It was still longer and longer. I think in the last year or two, it took them 8 or 9 months to evaluate the projects, which can be for project being in development. That's really a huge time spent for that. So the amount of projects was growing, and they just had to probably limit the number, and this was the criteria which they chose, which unfortunately came in the times of pandemic when the distribution is getting harder and harder. Luckily, they added VOD channels, so that was very good that they reflected the current situation in that. So we will see. So we will see if we will be eligible. I'm just also trying to find it out now.
Okay, thank you. Do you want somebody to add something?
It's the same, because also not only we are, so as I think also the fund we are giving the money, so the funders are also trying to keep up with this new situation. But the thing is that we know that the bureaucracy in every country and in Europe is much slower. So that's why once I was told by some leaders of Eurimage and media that it's easier to change you producers than to change the bureaucracy of Brussels, for example.
Okay, now is probably the time for questions from you. And yeah, we would really appreciate your questions. So if you want to ask something, just ask. Maybe I can give you a mic. Please, introduce yourself or your company.
Well, Anna Franklin, I think you've already seen me. I wanted to ask each of the panelists, during the time of the pandemic, you obviously had to do a lot of things online with the internet, Zoom, and so forth. Oh, we're so tired of Zoom. But now, some of those things were actually more efficient. Some of you mentioned that, doing them online. Now that we are coming back to what is more or less a normal situation, hopefully, are there any of the things that you did or learned during the pandemic that you decided it would be worth doing in future to still do them online and continue in that way? Is there anything that you thought was actually better to do online that you'll do in future like that?
Well, if I can say, definitely we found out that there are so many meetings that can be made online that we didn't think before. When I talked to a few of my friends from the European audiovisual industry, some of them even said that probably 90% of all the travels will be cut forever. That, you know, they found out that it's really possible to do many things online, to do many meetings online, and that they find it even crazy that how we lived before, you know, traveling all over. I mean, they traveled from UK to Prague for 1 hour meeting, you know, just to have 1 hour meeting, fly there in the morning and then fly back in the afternoon. And he said that he will never do it again. He doesn't see any point in doing that. So I really think that a lot of things will stay online, and I'm actually thankful for that because it was crazy. It was crazy time schedule which we had before. But definitely for some kind of events, it's just very, very, very necessary and very key to meet in person. For instance, workshops or film markets, that's something which you can do online, but you are really losing a lot of the networking and a lot of unexpected and unplanned meetings which you just do during physical markets or physical workshops. So definitely for more, I would say for more networking or more creative kind of events, that's really crucial to meet in person. But for smaller meetings, it's I think totally fine to stay online. And also what I find very important is the green aspect of that, because I'm also involved in kind of green filmmaking or the attempt to go more green on the set and the whole film production. And I think this really just helps to go more friendly in terms of environment, to just stay at home and not to fly for 1 hour meeting, which I think really is crazy.
No shaking hands anymore.
Partially I agree, and of course for a 1 hour meeting to fly, it makes no sense, but sometimes it makes, because I really believe in and okay, you can save a lot of money and time or whatever, but mainly
nature.
Nature, of course, but I really believe in the interpersonal context. So it's if I'm looking into the eyes, to your eyes here, or through an internet, it's not the same. If I have in a discussion and I'm trying to convince you about something in a project or something, maybe a gesture or looking is completely else than if we are watching the screen. So it's yes, in a lot of cases you can use it and it's very useful, but I think that of course in workshops and other things you can, but it's worthless if it's not other situation. And yes, I hope in interpersonal relations as also in love, so as in cinema. If you have to use something else too, yes, let's use it.
So for me, I think now at this moment we are all tired of all these Zoom and internet meetings. So I think that many of us are willing to meet in person, and I agree with Laszlo that you get to feel the energy of the other person, and especially if you are looking for, co-producer partner. Or you are making a new contact, it's very important for you to feel the energy and to meet in person. But of course, afterwards, you don't need to travel for the meeting when you know the person, like negotiate about something specific. You can do it either online or you can pick up a phone, it doesn't have to be Zoom. It can be a regular phone, because sometimes it's even more efficient than, hello, are you there? Are we there? Yes. So I cannot hear you. These were kind of things that were slowing you down as well. So I'm looking forward to be back in the live events, of course. But I also understand the thing that it was saving the time, money, and environment. This issue is prevailing as well. But on the other hand, you don't have to travel by plane as well. You can choose alternative transportation like trains. So that's also an option to travel to the meeting for 1 hour. You can travel 8 hours in the train.
For 1 hour meeting and then 8
Yeah.
hours back. Yes, it can.
Just two words. Generally, I agree with everything what you said, and there's also the point that money-wise, it's much cheaper when you work online on up to some stages, because you cannot avoid meeting, let's say, actor face to face, but you can make the casting by the internet at the first stage. So recall is face to face, but you can see all these files with actors who they make themselves. This is quite popular recently. So there are 2 points. You can have much more people to taking part in this kind of a casting, and the second one is that you don't have to ask these people to come to pay for the per diems and traffic transport costs. So money-wise, it's because of the producer. It looks always on the money side. It's also the value for the production. So probably reading the script together will never be done by the by the internet, but some of these things, especially on the early stage of the pre-production, certainly will.
Mentioned or touched environmental context in your responses. Zuzana, you are head of Slovak Film Commission and Green Screen Project in Slovakia, right?
Exactly.
Is the pandemic increasing the demand for professionals in this field? And what has changed in this field during the pandemic?
There was the demand even before the pandemic, but I think that it has changed now with the pandemic, because everything has changed, and obviously this environmental issue was pushed backwards a little bit, but nowadays we see the interest from all the European institutions to be part of green filming. So this is big support for all of us filmmakers that were already doing something before, and I hope that it will become the new normal after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, or whatever time we are living at the moment, that we can, even with the strict hygienic regulations, we can work it out and see the solutions and find the solutions, and and implement them into our work?
Yes, well, yeah, I mean, this is an issue which we also, together with Susanna, we worked on previously, even before pandemic. I think for those people who were not really, you know, leaning towards the green ideas, I would say, for them the pandemic just brought a good excuse not to continue or not to do it. Definitely, there are things which have changed and which are restricted by the COVID protocol and by the safety rules, definitely. But green filming is not only about plastic bottles. I mean, green filming is really touches really every department of the pre-production, of the production, every department of the shooting. So it's really it comes all the way to every aspect of it. Catering is one thing which is very hard to do nowadays, to go green, definitely, and you really have to use one disposable dishes. But then you have the whole field of travel, which we just talked about, and then you can really ask yourself as a producer, do I really need to fly the 50 people crew all the way or half the world to shoot 2 scenes over there, or can I do it at home in the studio? Do I really have to have 2 trucks of light on the set and then bring 2 generators for that to work with all those lights, or do I need just half of it, or can I use the local electric plugs or local electricity? So there are all kinds of other questions and other fields which touches this issue, and that has nothing to do with the pandemic, but it has really a lot to do with the mindset and with changing the view, how we can do it differently, how we can do it in more environment friendly way. And 2 years ago, I shot one film, which was like the first attempt to be a green film shot in Slovakia. And our main idea, our main motto of that was a voluntary modesty. And I think this is something which stays still, which is still valid, and which also, or I think even especially during pandemic, we should somehow reflect and go maybe back a little bit to the really what is important and what is really necessary.
Thank you, Katarina. What do you think, Laszlo and Jaroslav? Could the recovery of the European film industry be sort of with a green spirit?
Yes. First, the healthy spirit, which is including the green spirit also.
Jaroslav, do you want something to add?
I think this is the kind of the movement in the film industry that applies to all our countries, and not only our countries, but all around the world. Everyone is looking for his own solution, and everything is in the responsibility of the producer and relations with the director to establish the right way of the shooting, having this issue in concern. So there is no any. It's complicated, so there is no any pattern how to deal with this issue. Exactly, each decision has to be considered with this point of view. That's all. But happily, there are also organizations which helps to the producer already to find the best solutions in the film industry, in the film production. There is some like a green idea or green films. They work on it, how to save environment with this kind of the business activity.
Well, there is still space for your questions. There is a question.
Thank you. I'm Zuzana from Film Europe, Zuzana Vojtekova. You already talked about it a little bit or partially, but I still want to ask we are already hearing about the new wave coming, new wave of pandemic coming. Do you think we are really prepared, or are you doing some steps to prepare yourself or production or for this upcoming new wave, because it's already talking that it's coming in autumn, maybe in end of summer, like yes. What did I say?
That artistic new wave.
I said, oh,
Well,
sorry.
hopefully it will be both, no?
So I'm just
Um,
like yeah, I was not asked that if you are already thinking about it in when you're thinking about your productions or other things.
Well, for me personally, it's I think I'm prepared not to be prepared, you know, in a way. If I was counting before on having plan A and plan B for financing and for production itself, now I have plan C and plan D, just to be sure. And yes, we are. I mean, we are just opening our minds to not to panic and just to be kind of ready to react what will come. I don't think that there is any possible way how to be prepared, because you just don't know what's coming. And this is the biggest issue for me personally, to be open and to just be okay with that anything can change. Basically that. Easy as that.
Well, I have to agree on that, seeing that also my father teach me that when I was a child, that you can't ride two horses with one ass. But now I should say to to the young people that if you can't ride 10 horses with one ass, then you can leave the platform. But no, I think we don't have many options, because we survived one pandemic, the second pandemic, and I think that if the third, maybe some people will survive the third one, but the fourth one, very few. So I hope that it won't come, the third of the fourth, because you can't be prepared. So it's we don't have we are not millionaire to have to keep people if there is a pandemic, and to keep even our employees. Maybe I think most of us, the independent producers, have. As I know my friends, they can survive a couple of months or maximum a year, because we are surviving cities since 2 years, and then unfortunately I'm not optimistic that if it's coming. I think that many of us will leave the platform. So I hope it's not coming.
Well, I think that we have already learned the flexibility during this autumn time, and probably we will behave the same way as we behaved last autumn. Our advantage is that more and more people are already vaccinated. So let's hope that maybe on the set we will have the rule that you can work only if you show the proof of being vaccinated. Maybe, I don't know if it's can be legal or not, but this is the way. Exactly the way that we ask for the tests before entering the set. So let's hope that this fourth wave won't be so heavy, so huge, and we will manage. We always, our work is to be flexible and find the best solution.
This is a question for Jarek. You're at a film school where we're looking at the next generation of filmmakers that are coming along. These filmmakers are finishing their training and entering the career having lived through a pandemia. Are these young filmmakers that have learned their craft during this time going to be different than the filmmakers, the other filmmakers? Has it changed the generation you're seeing come through your school?
Well, in my opinion, is that I think pandemic somehow helped them to be more professional, to work much more on the scripts, on the preparation of the projects they have. Also, after leaving the school, they are starting to work, if there is a work, of course, because of the pandemic, in several film projects. So they are also learning the additional skills, and maybe if they are not successful as a director or DOP, maybe they will be successful as the second AD or I don't know, focus puller. But generally, I think that the pandemic had also good influence, especially on working on the preparation to the film. Because many times I noticed that I've got a great idea. It's written more or less properly. It looks like it's, but it's not think over up to the end. I mean, I still something is missing, and the pandemic time let them make the research much stronger, bigger research to discuss with other people, with the tutors and so on. So, of course, there was a problem with the pandemic because they were cut off from the regular classes, but from the other side, they are individuals, so they could get some good things out of this situation as well for themselves as artists. So, as we said before, there are good sides and bad sides of this situation. But professionally, I believe they can be a better artist in future.
Thank you. Is there another question? Tomasz Gic?
Hello, my name is Tomasz Gic and I'm working at Katarina's production company Silver Art. I have one question, but Laszlo already answered that, and the question goes to other panelists. What do you think? How the pandemic affect the viewing habits? Will the audience return to cinemas, or they move to VODs, or?
Yes. I wish I had the magic ball, and I could answer the question. But I don't know if you asked me, since we are working together. Yes? Okay. My personal opinion is that it's just a guess. It's really a wild guess because I think no one can predict. I talked to actually a few professionals from the distribution industry, and each of them said that they have no idea what will happen. Really, literally like that. They have no idea. All the rules, all the models which worked for 10, 20 years before and were changing a bit, of course, in the last 5 years, I would say. But there were still some rules. There were still some kind of model, situations which were working. Nothing of that works anymore, and everything was kind of not destroyed, but been eliminated, I would say, or paused, which is crucial for the next development of that. So I would say that we will see what will happen, but my personal opinion is that, as I said before, that probably it will never be as it was before. Some of the people which found the online world and VOD platforms find it really so comfortable that they will not go back to cinemas. Also, I think that the films in the cinemas, like the variety, the offer, will probably change. That those people who will go to cinema, but they will be very picky about what they want to see in the cinema. That they will go intentionally to see that film. They will not use it as a kind of social venue or social event as it was before, like let's go to cinema and we will see what they play, that they will go intentionally to see this film on the big screen with a great sound and great image. So I think that the viewing habits of the audience will change as well. And I hope that most of the cinemas will survive. As when we were talking about the third and the fourth wave, I think for the cinemas mainly, it will be totally destructive because they are just now they are on the brink of being really killed, and I think that they will not survive the third wave. That this will change as well.
Well, I generally agree with Katrina.
I agree, and there is a point to look at, and it's the producers and filmmakers as well. Why would they undergo these difficulties of co-producing films, applying free times for the film funds when they can go to streaming platform? They will receive the money for the budget, and they film every year a new feature film. There is going to be the fight of the film funds, probably also for the filmmakers. I don't know if you agree or not.
It started to happen, so I don't want to say names because there are not so many, but who are giving money, but they are giving huge monies now. So this will also change, and it will. I'm saying was as I finished my studies as a DOP also and directing before I became a producer, that it will change also the way of making of the movies. So for example, just it will change that when do you show a close-up or a wide picture, because on the TV, on any TV and on the big TV is working in another way than on a screen. So really, it will change a lot of things. Also, we can see already that the TV series are watched, are going as high in because people are staying at home. They used to go because they couldn't watch 3 or 6 parts of a TV series in a cinema, but at home he can go for a beer, he can go to the toilet, and they are watching it. Yes, a lot of things they are changing, not in a good way, but wise people is saying, even if I don't like it, you know, we have a saying in Hungarian, which it means that you can pee against the wind, but it doesn't worse. So you get a bit used to it.
Thank you, all of you. And this was probably the last question because our time is up. And yeah, I guess we are all hoping for slow recovery, but waiting for third wave and planning A, B, C, D, and yeah, and what is very important that the support is still very needed across the sector. So this is probably this is something what I wanted to mention at the end of the discussion as a result. And I would like to thank all our wonderful panelists today, Katarina Krnačová.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Laszlo Kantor.
Thank you.
Zuzana Bieliková.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
And Jaroslav Gzimala.
Thank you very much. And I would like to add one thing, that during the pandemic time, I was missing this kind of the meetings and panels and couldn't stand the meetings by internet. So meeting people face to face is a huge value. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And also thanks to the audience for your questions, and thanks Film New Europe and Visegrad Fund.
Thank you.